Freshwater macroinvertebrates. This wonderful creature that we're looking at right here is a hellgrammite, which is an insect. It's a larva. It looks terribly threatening, but it really isn't. It doesn't have strong jaws. It doesn't have the power to move those mandibles to do much damage. Kind of cute. And let's go. So, what are freshwater macroinvertebrates? Pretty much exactly what they say. They live in fresh water. There are marine macroinvertebrates as well, but today we're going to be looking at only freshwater species. Macro means visible to the naked eye, and invertebrate means it has no backbone. Many of the macroinvertebrates on our chart are insects. In fact, most of the macroinvertebrates are insects, but not all of them. For example, you will probably find some snails. They are in phylum Mollusca. They're gastropods. When I dipped in the pond at Stone Barn, I found some of these. These are orb snails. They have a wide opening at the mouth. They have lungs. They're called lung snails. They have no operculum. You may have picked up some periwinkles at the beach and seen that thing at the end of their foot that they use to close their bodies, their soft tissue inside the shell. These snails do not have that. They have no operculum. They do have lungs. They do indicate good water quality, but not as much as a gilled snail will do. They're more particular about their water quality. One of the defining characteristics of the orb snails is because they have no operculum, they have a wider and more angular shaped opening to their shell. Crustaceans are other type of macroinvertebrates that are not insects. These include the crayfish, the amphipods, the fairy shrimp. Crayfish you've probably seen. They look like little lobsters. I generally see them in turbulent water, not in still water so much. I'm not sure about that. Amphipods are also called scuds or side swimmers. We have a marine version of them as well, and I like to remember amphipod as amphitheater. Amphitheater is like round and curved, and that's what amphipods look like when they're swimming sideways. Fairy shrimp, aptly named because they appear in the spring. It seems like magic, practically overnight. I'm always surprised when I find them. Most people, when they find them, have some exclamations of joy. They are rather special, and I do have some here for you to take a look at. The species that I've found here on Mount Desert Island are Eubranchopus vernalis, which means vernal fairy shrimp. They have 11 pairs of swimmerettes. The males and the females are very easy to distinguish. The male, which you're seeing here, I'm not sure if my pointer is going to show, has those large, almost elephant-like tusk claspers. Those are used for mating. The female, which we'll see in a minute, has a brood sac on its abdomen in which the eggs, the fertilized eggs, are contained. So those are the claspers. They all swim upside down, which when you see them from the side just looks strange, and they drift. They're using these swimmerettes not only to move through the water at a slow and regal pace, it seems, although they can go fast, but they're also using those swimmerettes. That's where their gills are. That's where they get their oxygen. And the swimmerettes do 3 different things for this little creature. They move food up to its mouth. You will see at the end of the tail, there are these really white, bright patches. I'm not sure what their purpose is, but if you're in a slightly murky pond and looking down, oftentimes that is all you're going to see is the bright white flash of those swimmerettes. So here's a brood sac, and hopefully we can play it. And this was one, I photographed this a few years ago. To me, it looks like a washing machine. You know those washing machines where you have the big view you can see inside? It just rotates nonstop. Those are the eggs. which will be deposited. You can see they're being set out the back of the female. She makes 2 different kinds of eggs, winter and summer eggs. The winter eggs are really cysts, and they overwinter. They can be good for a number of years until the conditions are right again for them to hatch overnight, like magic. Now, let's go on to the next slide. That was just my note journal from 2019, the first time I saw them, which was very exciting for me. There's the male again with the claspers and the rotating brood sac. So we've looked at non-insect macroinvertebrates, snails, mollusks, bivalves, and then also crustaceans. There's another category, which are the worm-like creatures, leeches, planaria, nematodes, horsehair worms, and some midge larvae. They're still invertebrates, they don't have back, they're still visible to the eye, and they still live in this wet, fresh water. That is a planaria, and I just have a fondness of them because I had a pet planaria when I was in college. And here is the fascinating story, of the horsehair worm. It's an obligate parasite. It requires a host, which is usually a cricket or a grasshopper. It's one of these cases of behavioral change. So the life cycle is the horsehair worm, as an adult, will lay eggs or cysts. They will hatch into a larva. The larva will be on the grass along the edge of a stream, where it will get consumed by its host, usually a cricket or a grasshopper. Once it's inside, it changes the behavior of that host, and you can see it fills up the entire body cavity of the host. So it makes this cricket or grasshopper decide it needs to get a drink of water. So it jumps into the water where it drowns, and the horsehair worm is released, and the cycle starts all over again. I saw one of these in the pond at Sur-de-Mont by the Wild Gardens. I was with my granddaughter, and we were talking about them, I think, and she just reached down. It was one of those serendipitous moments and said, "Is this what you mean?" And she scooped one up. I actually think it's the only one I've ever had anyone scoop up for me. Another category on your chart, if you look at it, it says microscopic. I wouldn't bring these up because we're not looking at things through microscopes today, but the Daphnia are really not microscopic. When I scoop them up, they're tiny, maybe a 32nd of an inch, but they're definitely very visible. In this picture, it doesn't look particularly orange, but maybe it's what they're eating. The ones I pick up in my pond are pretty orange. So it's a crustacean, as is the fairy shrimp. They have virtually no defenses, so they're really important as food. They're herbivores, they feed on algae, they contribute to cleaner water because they do that. They're eating algae out of the water. And they're also, because they reproduce so quickly, they're frequently used for lab study, both for students, you can see right through them, they're pretty cool, to look at their internal organs. And yeah, I think my next slide will show what that looks like through a microscope I had on my kitchen counter. There are the little gills whipping like fast inside. And like the fairy shrimp, they're related. Those wonderful eyes that anthropomorphically make you a bit drawn to it. Next. And then there are finally the insects. And there are many, many of these. If you look at your chart, I can't hold it up and let you see it, but look at the categories that are insect. It's definitely more than 3/4 of those specimens that we're going to be looking for that are insects rather than crustaceans or mollusks or worms. Beetles, dragonflies, damselflies, caddisflies, mosquitoes, mayflies, springtails, and so many more. You might not say, I don't see a dragonfly in the water, but it's because what we're looking at is the larval form of all of these, not the adult form. This picture here shows mosquito larva on the left, that's A, with the breathing tubes. Those tubes go up so we can inhale water. And on the right is the pupa, which will wriggle and then turn into a live mosquito and fly away. Oh. Caddisfly. It's another larva that is very common, very, very easy to find. There are so many different kinds of them. They're called Trichoptera because the adult, not the larva, has hairy wings. They're case makers, they're net builders, and some of them are free swimming. There are multiple kinds. One of the kinds that we see here, actually two of them, we see the one that makes cases with twigs. It's called a log builder. There's another one that makes cases with twigs that go vertically. I don't have a picture of that. And actually the free swimming ones I see in streams around here. So this particular one I had brought home and was studying it in a jar. And you can see it has a piece of flower which it will grab. You can see the grass there that's been building its case out of, but it will build its case out of whatever is near it. In this case, it's building its case with violet petals. And it was beautiful when it was done. There's some jewelers who actually will strip them of their cases and put them in with precious jewels and have them make cases out of precious jewels. Oh, we're watching it again. Looking to see if it comes out of the shell a bit more, because it does sometimes come out and you can see, yeah, right there. Can you see that? Those are the gills right there. Those are the gills through which it through which it breathes. So lots of insects, and that's mostly what we're going to be looking at today. So we're going to grab nets, bins, key to pond life, and see what we can find. What you see right there is a giant water bug. It has leathery wings and a completely different lifestyle from the horsehair worm, which is a parasite and destroys another life. This one is very nurturing. In fact, it's pretty well known because the female lays its eggs on the male, who then carries them around and takes care of them while it grows. Happy exploring!